So, we know how to use and or, and we also know how to use if statements. Now, let's put the two together, and let's make ourselves, a few of them. I'm going to want at least 5 here, but, I'm just going to walk you through one, just to combine it all together. So, let's turn on some interactive mode here, because you already know how to use inputs with interactive mode. Let's just go with var1 equals input. Now, I don't know, what is input 1? Oop, and there we go. And we'll make, var2, what is input 2? Okay, so now I've got 2 inputs, and if I were to execute this, you'd see, what's input 1? I don't know, it's 20. What's input 2? 10. And, I can enter in my things. So now let's actually do something here. So if input, so now let's think this guy through for a second. So if var1 double equal signs equals, I don't know, 10. And, because remember, that and operator is going to do 2 things here. var2 equals 10. Remembering to put the colon. So if var2 and var1, whatever, so I'll print, something like, oh, the 10s have it, or something like that. And now we'll have it. So now, if I were to print input 1, 10, input 2, 10, enter, hello, computer? Oh, you're going to make, I know why, because that's why. That is the difference between integers and strings. I forgot to have that as strings, because remember, input defaults to a string. So if I wanted to make those integers, I would have to do the int, that sort of thing. Now let's try this again for real. So, if input 1 is 10, and input 2 is 10, trace back modules, var2 is not defined. Oops. Because I never made that var2, I made that var1. See, these are the types of little typos that'll wind up happening to you. So 10, 10, the 10s have it. Because if var1 was equal to 10, and var2 was equal to 10, I, for whatever reason, had var1 twice, because I copy and pasted. So I have all that. But now, what if I don't want to do that? I want to do a elif. So elif, let's just say elif var1 is equal to 10 and this one's equal to 20. I'll print 20 is higher than 10. Because it is. It's a higher number. Now, screw it. Let's say it's a bigger number. So now, if I execute, whoops, what do you, if var1, sometimes your browser, oh, my connection to the server was lost. Ooh, that's an interesting thing to happen. Why was my server connection lost? Off, on, let's try that again. There we go, yep. That case scenario, just turn it off and on again. I'm glad I'm having all the troubleshooting happening right now. And var2 is, oh, come on, input 2, 20. Now if I type that in, and it's thinking about it, it's really thinking about it. Yep, 20 is larger than 10. And because it did that, so if that, else that, whatever. Now, of course, if I were to change that out and say, or, see now I changed my and to an or here. So now, all I need is, I'm going to put a 10, Then I'm going to put a 20. Now you notice I do have 10 and 20 as part of this else if, but I now have an OR statement up here. So right now input 1 is 10. So therefore in the OR equation, this guy is correct. Therefore it'll stop at the 10s have it. Even though var 1 equals 10 and var 20 equals 20, it should print that this one's that. It's just going to stop it though. So the 10s have it. It never gets to this part because with the OR scenario, this guy is correct, even though this one isn't. So it printed that, had a correct answer, and then skipped the rest. And of course, tell you what, let me just change this out to an else here, and I'll just print, didn't have 10. So now, if I were what's input 1, 10, what's input 2, whatever, the 10s have it. Now let me execute this again. This time if I say, what's this one? Okay, it's that. What's input 2, 10, the 10 still have it. Either or works. So now, let me do this. If I go ba-da-da, and I go ba-da-da, neither one of those is 10, so it went to the else, and it didn't have a 10. So it told me what I didn't have. So we went through AND with the if statements, we went through OR with the if statements, and we have ourselves an else scenario here. So once again, let me run this module out here. Run module. What you're going to want to have at the very end of this is you want to tell the people the rules of the game here. Enter your login, screen name, and your password or whatnot. So I'll put, I don't know, B Gates, and I'll put Microsoft as his password, and it says loading Windows. That was what I put for the username Bill Gates and the password of Microsoft. Now, obviously, you guys will be picking your own names, not the ones I picked. And of course, if we want to run this again, oops, come on, shell, run the shell again. Restart shell. There we go. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Let's run the module. So now, once again, we're running the module. So now, in this case, if I have guest, and my password is blah, 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 error, login password do not match. Because I didn't actually do the correct syntax that I wanted. So, let's run this module. This guy and this guy don't match. But if I were to run the module again, and this time I put guest and blah 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 blah, it'll say welcome guest. Because in this particular code I looked for a lowercase g. So, this right here is my example of the everything else. This guy right here is an example of OR. Why is it an example of OR? Because if I run this again, I run this, and this time I put my username as whatever the heck I feel like it, but use my password as simply guest, it still says welcome guest. And same thing with this. This one was welcome guest. This one was welcome guest. So really, it was just looking for that lowercase g in guest, either in password or in username. So this right here is an OR. This right here was login does not match because that was my else. So you're going to want specific things for an AND for your username and password for a specific user. You're going to want an OR for your guest, and you're going to want an else for everything else that doesn't match. Once again, if I were to look this up in the my password flowchart, you have your ANDs, yes, print that, and print that, and print that, and print that, or print that. And then, of course, you're going to want one more OR that I forgot to put on this sheet for everything else. For every single thing that doesn't match a password or username combination. So really, you're just inputting these things, and then you're just going to do some if statements. That's really it. It's a very simple program. It's just the concept of if statements and the concept of the and or operators. You're just combining these concepts together. And thank you very much, and enjoy.